Welcome to Monday Manna. Woo! Lord, I missed y'all. I'm so excited to have y'all back. Thank you for rocking with me. We definitely didn't forget about you. I'm so excited to begin this series with you this week, and I can't wait to dive in it. I promise you, you don't want to miss this. Stick with me. Stick with me tonight. I promise you, you're going to grow in what we have to say tonight. Listen, if you haven't already, share the manna. I don't want you to keep this to yourself. Don't miss the opportunity to be a digital disciple tonight. I need you to share with people. Y'all know the table rules. Y'all know the table rules. Share the manna. Share this with 5 people that you know need a relevant word for their lives right now this week. Listen, Monday Manna is all about making sure you have the bread of life that you need to make it this week. So if you know that you need this every week, go ahead and join the table. How do you join the table, D? Well, you subscribe to the emails. I guarantee you. I know I've been talking about it, but Manna to Go is coming. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. I go into greater detail through a devotional type format of what I'm going to discuss with you tonight. Also, if you haven't, join the Facebook group. That's where you can share your thoughts, pray for each other here, and I can see your questions, and you can ask and talk about what you thought about what was said at the table this week. And also, if something I say tonight really resonates with you, feel free to leave a comment. You can say that part or comment on exactly what has touched your heart tonight based on what I said. Listen, we're going in a different direction, a little bit different direction. Monday Manna, it's not going to be as long. I just need you to give me at least 20 to 30 minutes, 20 minutes tops on this subject tonight. Sit with me, take a minute, clear all distractions. I just need to talk directly to you for the next 20 minutes. If that's cool, please rock with me. I got something for you. Listen, we started last fall talking about some things that really resonated with us. Last fall, we did some work, y'all. We did some serious work together last fall. Last fall, we talked about worrying. Woo! We walked through worrying, how to find contentment and joy. And I can tell you, that really blessed me, and I hope it blessed you that you don't have to settle for worry. You can find contentment and what you need, and the best way to find contentment is to find it in the peace that comes in submitting to God. Not only did we do that, we talked about stewardship. How do we steward? How do we be good stewards of what God's given us? We talked about how stewarding our hearts, protecting our hearts, the intimate parts of who we are. We talked about stewarding our gifts and what God has uniquely designed in all of us to introduce others to God through our service. And we talked about stewarding our faith. We talked about how if you're going to steward that faith, you got to forgive and you got to overcome fear. And we talked about how God did not give us a spirit of fear, but a power, love, and a sound mind. The days of being fearful is over. And now, guess what? I don't know if anybody told you this, but you survived 2023. Woo-wee! You survived 2023, and now we are here in 2024. And guess what? I gave you a whole month to do that whole start again thing, and I'm going to get it right this year. And now it's February, but I still want to help you because I know the real resolutions truly begin in February. A lot of people want to say they starting in January, but if we be honest tonight, the real resolutions begin in February. So guess what we're going to talk about tonight. What's on the menu, D? What's on the menu tonight and what's on the menu for the next few weeks is the genesis of everything. Woo! We're going to talk about the genesis of everything. You know, we've heard about the book of Genesis. It's the book of beginnings. But I want to talk about what Genesis tells us on how to start in different areas of our lives. And so for the next few weeks, what we'll do, I'll do 3 weeks, the next 3 weeks, if you'll rock with me. And on the last week, I need you to join me for a live Q&A where I want to hear and just talk with you and check in. So throughout this entire series, if you have any questions, please feel free to submit those on the Facebook or email me or comment. Let me know. We'll be happy to take your questions. And on the last week of this series, the Genesis of Everything, we'll do a live Q&A where we'll answer some of your questions and talk directly about what has concerned you, about how to start effectively. That's what we're talking about. How do we start effectively? So tonight, I want to set the table. I want to set the table before we dive in to this conversation. And I want you really to take these questions in and allow the Holy Spirit to help you think through your response to these questions. The first question is, what is the best way to start something? What is the best way to start something? What's the best way to start it? What if you look back over your life at the lessons learned over your life? What do you consider to be the best way to start something? Along those lines, the next question I want to ask you as we set the table tonight is, how do you start in a way that will lead to you finishing strong? Woo! How do you start in a way that will lead to you finishing strong? I don't want to just keep starting. How do I start in a way? I feel you tonight. Somebody's asking that question. How do I start in such a way that will lead me naturally to finishing strong? We're going to cover that tonight. The last question I want to ask you, this is where I want you to be real. You ain't got to be super saved, but I want you to be super honest here. What hinders us from starting the right way? If you think about over your life, if you think about how many times you started and stopped, starting and stopped, what hinders you from starting the right way? What if you look back over your life, what has hindered you from starting the right way? I want you to think about that as we go through tonight. What's on the menu tonight? We're talking about the genesis of starting. We're going to talk about the beginning of the beginning. The genesis of starting. And what better text to help inform us tonight is the Genesis text written by my man Moses, who's informing the children of Israel as they journey out of Egypt. He's literally helping them to begin this journey and this exodus out of their old lifestyle and reintroducing them to an understanding of God and how the world is made. And from this synopsis and from this text, we can really deduce some principles about how God can help us understand how to start effectively. And so tonight I got a few recipe items that I want you to consider as we journey through the genesis of starting. The first ingredient to the recipe tonight, if you're looking for a recipe on how to start effectively, the first ingredient I have for you is insight. That's right. Insight. If you're gonna start the right way, you got to start with insight. Insight. The Genesis text says in Genesis chapter 1 verse 2, and the earth was without form and void and dark. And God does something interesting. The Spirit of God hovers over the face of the deep, over this formless earth. He hovers. Now, how does he hover over a formless earth? And I ask myself that question all the time. And I've come to deduce that God, before beginning to form the world, hovers, which means his spirit rested and reflected and thought through. Before he began creating, he hovers over all of the elements that would come to make earth. Can you see him hovering over H2O and nitrogen and all of those elements, knowing in that moment as he reflected and rested and reflected that his insight was to build from all of these elements and raw materials earth. Woo-wee. Before he begins, don't miss this, he hovers. Now, the question I have for you is, have you considered resting before beginning? See, everybody's going to tell you to jump right in. No, if you're going to start effectively, sometimes you got to rest with insight before you begin anything. Oftentimes, you need to take time to sit and have insight and to rest with the idea of whatever you're beginning before you begin. You got to consider the cost. You got to think through the raw materials that will come, that are part of your plan that will help make it come into fruition. So many times we start without insight, and that is a recipe for disaster. Never start without purposeful reflection and preparation. Did you hear what I just said? I said never start anything without purposeful reflection and preparation. You should begin the process of starting with hovering. You should first consider the cost of what you're potentially committing to. I promise you tonight, if you hover first, you may avoid some of the hurdles that may come from lack of preparation. Woo-wee. Maybe you can't finish because you didn't start with insight. You just jump right on in. And now it's February, you already burnt out. You got to start with insight. Insight, that's the first ingredient. Second ingredient tonight is separation. Woo! And y'all know this verse. God said, let there be light. But watch what he does. He saw the light and it was good. And then he divided the light from the darkness. Woo! He hovers. Then he says, let there be light. And then he separates the light from the darkness. He called the light day and the darkness night and the evening morning. And that was the first day. And from this, we can deduce that if you're going to start effectively, you got to do like God. You got to separate the light from the dark. Ooh. How are you setting yourself up for success when you start? See, part of that hovering process is helping you understand what it's going to take to do what you feel like God has called you to do in this season. And you know what you got to do? You got to learn to separate yourself from darkness, chaos, confusion, and align yourself with light, illumination, and clarity. Did you hear what I just said? If you're going to start effectively, you got to learn to first separate yourself from darkness, from confusion, from what's chaotic, and align yourself with things that will bring clarity and illumination. You got to declare over your projects, let there be light. I refuse to start anything without first declaring that whatever I'm starting, I got to start with clarity, and I refuse to start with confusion. In fact, if you're starting with confusion, that's a telltale sign you're starting the wrong way. You're starting the wrong way. You should never begin anything without identifying what is bringing you light and what is causing you confusion. You got to start with separation. First ingredient is insight. Second ingredient is separation. Last ingredient for our conversation tonight, you got to have the right atmosphere. The right atmosphere. Watch what he does. Genesis 1:6, he says, and God made the firmament and divided the water which was under the sky, the firmament, from the waters which were above the firmament, the earth. And he said it was so. What did he do? He separated the waters from the earth and made the sky. In other words, he created a system. Now, this system we know is what fuels photosynthesis. This system is what we know keeps us alive and allows water to be recycled from the earth into the atmosphere in this continuous cycle. He created an atmosphere that was conducive for productivity. Let me ask you this question. When you didn't finish last time, did your atmosphere support what you were doing? When you didn't finish last time, did the atmosphere lead you to being more productive, or did it take away from you being productive? Have you set the right atmosphere for what you feel like God has called you to do? You have to learn to start by being intentional about the environment of your productivity. You got to make sure you got the right atmosphere that whatever you're starting will finish because your atmosphere, the people in your ecosystem, the things in your ecosystem, your atmosphere encourages you to keep on producing. Ooh, I got to be in an atmosphere that even when I want to give up, my atmosphere won't let me. Even when I want to quit, my atmosphere has to help me be productive. The genesis of starting. If you're going to start the right way, first ingredient, tonight's recipe, it says you have to have insight. You got to consider the cost. Got to plan. Got to rest with the idea. Make sure you have all the materials to start. Then you got to have separation. You got to separate yourself from what's confusing and align yourself with what will bring you clarity. And the last ingredient tonight is you got to have the right atmosphere. You got to make sure your atmosphere will help you continue to produce. So tonight in your to-go box, as we wrap it up, I want you in your to-go box, what I'm taking in my to-go box is this. I'm starting with insight. I ain't got time to be confused. I need to have real clarity about what I'm doing. And I'm committing to separate myself from confusion in this season. I ain't got time to play with things that are confusing me. I got to separate myself from it. And the last thing is I got to solidify the right atmosphere this year for what God is calling me to do. What's in your to-go box tonight? Take some time, write down what's in your to-go box tonight as you think through how to start the right way. All right? Enjoyed y'all tonight. Listen, take time. If you got to watch the replay, watch it again. Let the Holy Spirit minister to your heart this week about how he's calling you to start in this season. I'll see y'all next week. Again, join the Facebook group, join the table, and I'll be in your emails real soon. God bless y'all.